The last time I saw Daniel's brother, he was standing in the parking garage of a Marriott hotel in suburban Ohio, loading cardboard boxes into the back of a Ford pickup that did not belong to him. I was not supposed to be there. I had driven 40 minutes to return a folder Daniel had left in my office. A folder containing a handwritten loan agreement on notebook paper that I had photocopied without telling him. I stood at the entrance of the garage for a moment. Kevin did not see me. He was focused on the boxes. He had the careful, unhurried movements of a man who had stopped being in a hurry some time ago. I turned around. I drove back. I did not tell Daniel I had gone. That was 14 months after the money was gone. All of it. $197,000. Across 6 transactions. Across 22 months. Documented in Daniel's careful handwriting on 3 separate pieces of notebook paper. All of them signed. None of them worth the paper they were printed on. I want to tell you how it started. Not how it ended. You already know how it ends. I want to tell you how a careful man, a man who had done everything right for 30 years, sat across from me on a Thursday afternoon in March and made the single decision that would rewrite the last chapter of everything he had built. The decision was not the money. The decision was the word yes. His name was Daniel Marsh. 53. He had sold a logistics company, regional, unglamorous, the kind nobody writes about and everybody needs, 8 months before I met him. After taxes, fees, and the particular costs of unwinding 19 years of work, he had cleared $4,231,000. In the 8 months before he walked into my office, he had done almost nothing with it. Paid off the house. Paid off his wife's car. A kitchen renovation. Portugal. Which he described in one sentence. We liked it. And moved on. He sat down. He put a folder on the desk. He said, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I wrote none of this down. I did not need to. I had already seen the third item on his list. Let me tell you exactly what Daniel had. After the sale. After the house. After Portugal. After a $340,000 allocation into a money market account his wife controlled separately, her idea. Not his. And the single smartest financial decision made in this entire story. Daniel had $3,847,200 in liquid capital. Not $4 million. Not almost $4 million. $3,847,200. I want you to hold that number. Set it somewhere you can find it later. His income. A duplex 2 miles from his house. $4,800 a month. His wife's part-time work at a pediatric practice. $2,200 a month. Total household expenses. Verified. $6,100 a month. $900 above water. Every month. Without touching the principal. If Daniel had done nothing, no decisions. No phone calls after 9 p.m. That $3,847,200 would have grown to approximately $9.2 million by the time he turned 72. Compounded quietly. Without anyone noticing. The way real money moves. He would have been fine. Not the fine he ended up with. The other fine. The third item on Daniel's list was a name. Kevin Marsh. 49 years old. Daniel's younger brother by 4 years. Kevin had been running a restaurant in a mid-sized Ohio city for 7 years. An Italian place. 40 seats. The kind of neighborhood spot that is always almost working. Good reviews on the local paper's website. A loyal lunch crowd. A dinner service that never quite filled. Daniel described Kevin the way people describe someone they have been defending for a long time. With the specific efficiency of a man who has learned which details to lead with and which to leave out. Kevin was talented. Kevin had vision. Kevin had just had a difficult few years. I asked what kind of difficult. Daniel looked at his folder. The kind, he said, that required some help. Next to Kevin's name on the list was a number. $50,000. And next to that, in the slightly smaller handwriting of a man who has learned to footnote his own requests, temporary bridge. Kitchen equipment. 24 months. I have been in this business for 16 years. In those 16 years I have watched 41 people lend money to someone they loved. I have seen 41 of those loans leave the account. I have seen 3 of them return. 3. Daniel was not going to be one of the 3. I knew it before he finished the sentence. Not because Kevin was a bad person. What I am about to tell you is not a story about a bad person. It is a story about a specific type of situation that produces a specific and entirely predictable outcome, regardless of the character of the people inside it. He did not know yet what he was inside. The $50,000. Kevin needed it for equipment. A new commercial oven. The old one had a heating element that had been failing for 2 years. Kept alive by a repair technician Kevin paid in cash on the last Friday of every month. 2 walk-in coolers. Some ventilation work above the range that the city inspector had flagged twice and would flag a 3rd time with consequences. I drove there once, 3 months after our first meeting. At Daniel's invitation. Kevin came out from the kitchen in a white apron. He was a big man with his brother's eyes and none of his brother's stillness. He moved the way people move when they are always solving a problem that is always almost solved. He showed me the new oven. It was, I will admit, a very good oven. I had already told Daniel what I am about to tell you. I told him to treat this as a gift, not a loan. Because a debt between brothers, when it goes unpaid, does not stay financial for long. He said, "He's my brother." He wrote the check the following Tuesday. The balance was $3,797,200. He did not know yet that by the time this was over, I would be standing in a parking garage in suburban Ohio watching his brother load boxes into someone else's truck. And that I would say nothing. And that this would be the kindest thing I did for either of them. Month 4. Kevin called on a Wednesday evening. After the dinner service. Daniel told me about the call the following week. Sitting in the same chair. With the same folder. Now thicker by 1 page. The equipment had been installed. The coolers were running perfectly. The oven had changed the kitchen. Kevin said. The line moved faster. The food was more consistent. 2 of their best reviews of the year had come in since the installation. But there was a new problem. The landlord. The lease was up for renegotiation. The space was 1,200 square feet on a corner lot that had, in the 7 years since Kevin signed his original lease, become considerably more valuable. The landlord wanted to go from $4,200 a month to $5,800. Kevin had counter-offered at $4,700. The landlord had not responded. Kevin needed a deposit on a backup location. Just in case. And possibly a lawyer to review the existing lease for leverage. He opened with $60,000. Kevin opened with $60,000. Daniel said yes. At the end of a 40-minute call, Kevin said, "Actually, it might be closer to 85. I didn't want to say the big number right away." He didn't want to say the big number right away. I have heard that sentence across 37 of the 41 loans I mentioned. Not because it tells you the borrower is dishonest. It tells you something more precise. They knew the real number before they dialed. They calculated what you could hear without flinching. They started below it. They waited. Daniel laughed when he told me. He had not heard what I heard. The balance was $3,712,200. Month 7. The landlord had come back at $5,400. Kevin took it. The right decision. And one that cleaned out his operating reserve for the deposit. A catering contract had appeared. A corporate park, 6 companies, 300 lunches twice a week. Kevin had run the numbers. The numbers showed 22% margin. Picture his kitchen at 6 in the morning. 8 weeks in. Prep cook breaking down cases of romaine. The radio on. The good new oven at temperature. Kevin in the back office with a calculator, trying to locate the difference between what the numbers promised and what the account contained. The margin was 4% on a good week. Negative on a bad one. Kevin called Daniel on a Sunday night. He needed $62,000. Payroll bridge while he renegotiated the contract terms. 2 months. He would pay back all 3 amounts at once. The balance was $3,650,200. And then, and this is the part one have watched more times than any other. In more versions than I can count, Kevin went quiet. Not absent. Not hostile. Quiet in the specific way of a man who is still present in all the ways that matter. Still answered the phone. Still came to Thanksgiving. Still asked about the kids. But had relocated, inside himself, to somewhere that the subject of money could not reach. The shift, and there is always a shift, arrived not as a phone call or a meeting but as a Tuesday morning in September. Early. The kind of early where the light in a kitchen is still the color of uncertainty. Before the day has committed to anything. He had gotten up before his wife. He had made coffee. He sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and did the accounting himself for the first time. He had not done this before. He had tracked each individual amount. He had the notebook paper agreements. 3 of them now, each signed and dated and witnessed by his wife, whose name appeared on all 3 in the careful cursive of a woman writing something she does not want to write. He had simply never added them together in one place. The total was $197,000. He called me from the kitchen. Still sitting at the table. The legal pad in front of him. The 3 notebook papers spread out beside it. I could hear the particular silence of a house in the middle of a weekday. The refrigerator hum. A dog somewhere in the back of the house. Nothing else. He read me the number. Slowly. The way people read a number they are still deciding whether to believe. I said, I know. He said, Kevin's wife left him. Back in July. Did I mention that? He had not mentioned that. He said, I don't think I can bring it up right now. $197,000. And it could not be brought up because Kevin was in a bad place. I have seen this 41 times. I have seen it end differently 3 of them. The conversation that cannot happen right now does not get easier. It gets replaced by a different one, arriving early on a Thursday morning. From Kevin's oldest daughter, calling from a number Daniel didn't recognize. Her father was in the hospital. She said. Not serious. But there were financial things Daniel should probably know about. He did not know yet that Kevin had listed the $197,000 among his debts. In paperwork filed with a bankruptcy court in the Southern District of Ohio. He did not know yet that listed among his debts and discharged are. In that paperwork, the same sentence. I kept the folder. Daniel left it the first day by accident. He called about it 2 days later. By then I had already read everything inside it. There is one document I still think about. Not the loan agreements. A single page near the back. A projection Daniel had printed from his bank's website. 10 years of growth on $3,847,200 at a conservative rate. The number at year 10 was $6,931,450. He had printed it. He had brought it to our first meeting. He knew what was at stake. He lent the money anyway. I have thought about that first check more than any of the 5 that followed it. Not because it was the largest. And not because it was the most preventable. Because of what Daniel said when he handed it to me to review. He did not mention the equipment. He looked at the check and said, "We grew up pretty different. The two of us." By the end, he did not explain. I knew what he meant. I told him, that Tuesday morning of the legal pad and the kitchen table, what I should have found a way to say at the beginning. He was quiet for a moment. He said, "I know that." He said it the way people say things they have known for a long time and have been waiting, without realizing it, for someone to make them say out loud. The restaurant closed the following spring. A sign on the door for 2 weeks. Then no sign. Then a paper about a new tenant. The oven, the good new oven, was sold at auction for $1,100. Kevin filed for bankruptcy 14 months after that. The $197,000 was discharged. Daniel and Kevin still speak. Every few weeks, a phone call. Daniel mentions it the way you mention weather. Not as information. Just as the condition of things. The last time he sat across from me, he brought the same folder. Different contents. The original projection was gone. In its place, a revised number. A revised timeline. The number at year 10 was $4,814,000. Not $6,931,450. The difference, $1,117,450, is not what the loans cost him. It is what the compounding cost him. The price of the word yes, paid across 22 months. In 6 installments, each one smaller than the last and each one going the same way. He looked at the new projection for a long time. Then he said, "Is this still enough?" I told him it was. He nodded the same way he had nodded the first day. I still have that notebook paper in my files. The original loan agreement. $50,000, repayable within 24 months. Witnessed at the kitchen table on a Sunday evening. At the bottom, in his wife's handwriting, a woman who has never once, in 5 years of meetings, said an unkind word about Kevin. Who has sat in my office and spoken about the situation with the careful neutrality of someone managing their own feelings from a significant distance. At the bottom of that page, below her signature, she had written 2 words. She had not written them for Kevin to read. She had not written them for Daniel. She had written them the way people write things they need to say when there is no one to say them to. "Please, Kevin. I'll tell you another one next time."